Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome and thank you for joining us today for today's webinar on administrative supplements for development of risk-stratified cancer survivorship care. My name is Bryce Geiling, and I'll be your WebEx host. Before we get started, I'd like to make a few comments. All lines have been muted upon entry and will remain muted for the duration of the webinar. Please feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation in the chat or Q&A panel, and you can select host from the drop-down. We will ask them on your behalf during the Q&A portion of the webinar. And lastly, if you need to view live captioning, please refer to the link that will appear in the chat panel. And please note that this webinar is being recorded. And now I would like to turn it over to our presenter, Michelle Malaga.
Thanks very much, Bryce. As Bryce mentioned, my name is Michelle Malaga. I am a program director in the Healthcare Delivery Research Program of the Division of Cancer Control and Population Sciences. I'm joined today by my colleague, Dr. Lisa Galicchio, who is a program director in the Epidemiology and Genomics Research Program in our division. In today's webinar, I will provide some background information that led to the development of this supplement notice, details about the call for supplements, and then Lisa will be facilitating the question and answer session. Please note that questions about specific projects will not be addressed in today's webinar. We also want to note that this supplement is not intended to include coronavirus-related research, so we will not be taking questions about COVID-19 supplements today. Please see this website link for NIH resources focused specifically on coronavirus. I'll start with a brief background. As many of you know, due to advances in diagnostic and treatment capabilities, there has been an exponential growth in the number of cancer survivors in the United States. In 2016, there were an estimated 15.5 million cancer survivors in the U.S., and this number is expected to grow to 26.1 million by 2040. The Institutes of Medicine, now the National Academy of Medicine, called for comprehensive survivorship care after cancer treatment, including these components: prevention and surveillance for recurrence and new cancers, surveillance and management of the effects of cancer and its treatment, health promotion and preventive care. And these complex needs necessitate the delivery of comprehensive, coordinated continuing care after the completion of treatment, which often involves multiple providers. An efficient and effective way to deliver care may be to consider risk-stratified survivorship care, which aims to deliver the right type of follow-up care to the right survivor at the right time. Risk-stratified survivorship care includes follow-up care pathways for survivors that are tailored based on their risk for specific factors, including symptom burden, recurrence, subsequent malignancies, and functional impairments. Risk-stratified survivorship care algorithms assign patients into low, moderate, and high-risk categories to inform both the timing and types of providers that are engaged in follow-up care. For example, cancer survivors that are diagnosed with early-stage disease who are at lower risk for such issues may benefit from care delivered in part from providers other than oncology specialists, such as primary care providers. Conversely, survivors with higher levels of needs would benefit from more intense follow-up care, likely led mostly by oncology specialists. Although risk-stratified survivorship care models have been partially implemented in other countries, there is currently no evidence-based algorithm that identifies low, moderate, and high-risk survivors for risk-stratified survivorship care in the U.S., and there is a need to develop a robust algorithm to determine risk categories to inform survivorship care pathways after treatment. This leads us to our current supplement notice. The goal of these administrative supplements for the development of risk-stratified cancer survivorship care algorithms is to stimulate research focused on the development and/or validation of risk stratification algorithms that characterize survivors into meaningful risk-stratified groups to inform appropriate follow-up care. Through this notice, NCI is seeking supplement applications that propose methodological approaches to identify individuals within each group. The receipt date for this supplement notice is May 15th. Administrative supplement applications are limited to current NCI-funded projects. Applicants must hold an active eligible grant, which includes the R01, U01, R37, P01, U19, and UM1 mechanisms. Supplements must support work within the scope of the parent award and should be consistent with the aims of the parent award. This is definitely something to speak with your program director for the parent award if you have questions. I would also point you to the notice for details on the application process. Some additional important considerations. Applicants should utilize existing parent study data either alone or in conjunction with data from other sources, such as the electronic medical record, cancer registry data, and/or claims data. This current supplement notice is focused on adult cancer survivors, which includes adult survivors of childhood cancers. Applicants for this supplement notice may propose a single cancer type or multiple cancer types. Those applicants focusing on one cancer type should include in their application how this approach may serve as a prototype for other cancers. Application budgets should not exceed more than $150,000 in total costs, and the supplement period must be within the currently approved project period. Requests for no-cost extensions to accommodate a supplement will not be permitted. In terms of the review process, NCI will conduct reviews of the submitted applications and will consider the following factors: the scientific merit of the proposed study, the innovation of the study, potential of the project to develop and/or validate a risk-stratified algorithm, and potential of the developed algorithm to be utilized to inform care pathways for survivorship care. Some final tips for applicants. Please review the notice carefully for instructions on application requirements, and note the application due date of May 15th. In addition, the recording of this webinar and the frequently asked questions will be posted on our website at this link. And finally, we encourage you to reach out to us early with your questions and to discuss your project. At this point, I will turn things over to Dr. Lisa Galicchio, who will be leading our question and answer session. Thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. And don't forget, for those who are participating, if you have a question, please go to the chat feature in WebEx, ask your question, and I will ask it for you and answer it, or throw it to somebody who can answer it. So what Michelle did not mention is we have Scott Rogers with us, who's a public health advisor for my program, EGRP, and he will help to answer some of these questions. So one question we have is, can the PI request a supplement if their grant is in the first year of a new award? And I'll ask Scott to answer that question.
So yes, investigators can request a supplement to a grant that's in the first year, but the grant will have had to have been awarded for at least 4 months at the time of the submission of the supplement application.
Thank you, Scott. And what about a grant that's coming to an end and they plan to request a no-cost extension for that grant? Can they apply for supplement funding?
So the parent grant has to have at least 12 months remaining at the time of the supplement award, and we're anticipating that these supplements will be awarded around August 1 of 2020. So yeah, you would have to have a full year at that time. So you cannot be going into a no-cost extension if you're planning to submit the supplement request.
Thank you. And that answers one of our other questions, when will these supplements start? It sounds like they're tentatively scheduled to begin in late summer of 2020.
Yeah.
Again, another question is the collection of new data within the scope of this supplement? Really, as Michelle pointed out, these supplements should focus on the use of existing data in the parent study. You can link other existing data sources to your parent study data, but really all data should be existing. Again, what kind of costs can PIs request in this supplement? I'll throw that one to Scott as well.
Allowable costs would include, but they're not limited to, personnel costs, and that would be personnel who are critical to completing the aims of the supplement, assays and reagents, supplies, software, costs that may be related to contacting subjects, travel costs. Again, it has to be critical to completing the aims. You cannot request travel costs for conferences or to present data. Typically, we would not allow PI salaries unless the PI will be doing work that, again, is critical to completing the aims of the supplement. So if the PI salary is well justified, the reviewers would take that into account.
Thanks, Scott. Another question is, what variables should be included in the algorithm and the model? Well, this is really up to the investigator, and we envision that variables to be included in the model may include, but are not limited to, things like patient characteristics such as sex, race, and physical functioning, clinical characteristics of the cancer, and treatments that the patients may have received. But again, that's for the investigator to justify and include in their approach. And we have a specific question about no-cost extensions. Given the COVID-19 automatic no-cost extensions for all R01s, will an R01 with an end date of December 1st, 2020, that will automatically be given a no-cost extension be eligible? So I guess this is going back to the no-cost extension question from before.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've gone back and forth with our Office of Grants Administration on this, and NCI has decided no, you would still, and we'll go back to what I had said originally, that you would need a full year on the grant at the time of the award. So if your grant is supposed to end in December, then it would not be eligible for these supplements.
Thanks. So the final question that I have here, and please, if you have a question, again, please put your question in the chat feature of the WebEx so I can ask it and get it answered. How will you prioritize applications for funding? And I think this is something that Michelle mentioned in her presentation. We'll be prioritizing supplements based on scientific merit and innovation, as well as the strength of the rigor and methods to develop and or validate the risk-stratified survivorship care algorithm. And that's all the questions I have for now.
Lisa, this is Michelle. It looks like there's a couple other questions that are coming in. Do you see them down below? And if not, I'm happy to ask the first.
Okay, you're right. I do see them now. Sorry. Oh, there's a lot of questions below.
Yeah.
It's on the next page. So how long does it take until the decision is made for funding? Well, the application due dates are in May, and we'll begin review of these applications in June. And as Scott said, we expect that these will start in late summer. So that gives you a timeline of the decision for funding. Will COVID-19 allow flexibility for a later deadline? And Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think these are hard deadlines for these applications.
Yes, there are deadlines.
Can a P mechanism be the parent grant to which this is submitted? Scott, I think you can answer that one.
Yeah, the PO1s are allowed, I believe, under this announcement.
But not P30s.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's right. $150,000, does that include indirect costs? Yes, it does include indirect costs, so the $150,000 is total cost. The next question is the eligibility criteria says that the applicant must hold an R01 equivalent. Does that mean the applicant must be the PI for that grant? Yes, for the parent grant, the PI has to have an R01 equivalent. Are grants with carryover funds eligible for the supplement? And I'll throw that one to Scott as well.
Yes. However, if you have a large unobligated balance on the grant, which would be more than 25% of your current direct costs, that will be taken into account, and there may be additional scrutiny when reviewing the supplement. So typically, we would say that the parent grant should have less than 25% unobligated balance anticipated for the next award, or if you were just awarded on your parent grant, then did you have more than 25% carryover going into the current year? So we're using 25% as our cutoff.
Great. The next question is, can the supplement be submitted with a co-investigator in addition to the PI? And the answer to that is yes. You just need to justify the personnel that you put on the supplement application. Who will conduct the review? These supplements are going to be reviewed internally. So they will be reviewed by NCI staff and not by study section. Okay, we've gotten to that one. Is an R35 applicable parent grant?
No, NCI does not allow supplements to R35s.
Another question that we have related to scientific content is a risk tool developed using a simulation model in scope? This is a little bit different than I think we were thinking, but I would suggest that you follow up with us so we can discuss this in more detail. And is the mechanism focused more upon observational designs? So Michelle, perhaps you can answer this question. Observational designs of survivorship care delivered versus effective data collection while delivering survivorship care.
Sure. So actually this supplement notice is really designed for existing data. So existing data from the parent grant either alone or in conjunction with additional data such as electronic medical record data, cancer registry data, and or claims data. So it's not designed for prospective collection of data.
Great. So these are some excellent questions here. So here's another question about the duration of the grant. What is the minimum and maximum duration of the supplement grant? Well, the supplement activities have to be completed within 1 year. I don't know if there's a minimum duration. Usually applicants apply for the full year, but I would think that you can apply for less time if you believe that your activities will take place in less time. Are there any similar supplement notices on survivorship planned? Well, there's other ones that you can look up in the NIH guide. There's one on aging trajectories among cancer survivors, among others. So I suggest that you look in the NIH guide for these other notices. And so those are all the questions I have. Do you have any other comments, Michelle?
No, thank you. These are really great questions. I would just add that if you have any follow-up questions about specific topics or aims and you want to reach out, we encourage you to reach out to both myself and Lisa. It looks like one additional question came in, and maybe we'll make this our last question, and perhaps I'll pose this to you, Scott. Can one PI under a single R01 submit 2 different applications under this supplement notice?
I would have to go back and look at the notice more carefully. I don't know if that limitation on number of supplement applications per parent grant was included. So that's something we're going to have to look into.
Okay, so we can follow up at a later date with the individual who asked that question, and we will post the answers to the frequently asked questions on our website as well. So thank you very much for participating in this webinar. Please feel free to reach out to us by email if you have questions on applying. Bryce, I think